Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, and in today's review I'm going to be taking a look at the Transformers masterpiece MP-48 Lio Convoy from Beast Wars. Now if you are in the market for picking one of these figures up or just other transforming collectibles in general, then I highly recommend that you should check out the links down in the description box below, where you'll be taken to Showz's store, who currently has this figure in stock right now and is ready to ship. So taking a very quick look at the packaging, as per tradition with my MP reviews, we've got a really awesome image of Lio Convoy in both his robot mode as well as his lion mode. We've got the Transformers Beast Wars masterpiece text at the top, MP-48, the Transformers 35th anniversary. We turn our attention to the side of the packaging and we've got an image of Lio Convoy in his lion mode. And then flipping to the back of the packaging, this is actually my favourite piece of the entire box. We have an entire plethora of different product shots of this figure in both his robot mode as well as in his lion mode, demonstrating some of the different features and poses that you can in fact pull this figure off in. We've also got some screen caps from that actual Japanese Beast Wars cartoon series with some images of Lio Convoy in his lion mode as well as in his robot mode, and we can see here all of the different features that I'll demonstrate within this review, as well as a brief bio in Japanese. So without further ado, let's crack Lio Convoy open and take a more detailed up close look at the figure himself. Now, taking a look at the figure himself, here he is as he comes packaged in his lion mode. Now, throughout the review, I will be in fact keeping the packaging as an almost backdrop for this video, just as this figure is completely white and the contrast will not look well considering that I do have a white backdrop. So just to show you the figure in a more authentic state, I will be keeping the box in for the majority of this review. Taking a look at the traditional collector's card that we do get with these MP releases, we've definitely got a super nice piece of artwork of Lio Convoy in his robot mode, MP-48 Lio Convoy for Beast Wars, and then as we flip around to the back of the card, we've got a product shot of the figure in his robot mode as well as his lion mode, and his statistics are incredibly high. You can see that he really is definitely a very high ranked character. Strength is a 10, intelligence 10, speed 10, endurance 10, rank 10, courage 10, fire blast only 9, however skill is 10, so I'm definitely sure that he makes up for that 9 in some other areas. So we are definitely dealing with an incredibly skilled leader with this form of Lio Convoy. And as with all of the masterpiece releases that you will order from Showz's store, you of course get the MP collector's coin. This one is of course dedicated to MP-48, so just showcasing this is a collector coin slash pin, and it is a die cast piece in the shape of the Matrix of Leadership with an actual engraved image of Lio Convoy's robot mode head with the MP-48 logo. So definitely a super nice addition to your collection, and as I stated, if you do order direct from Showz, this is something that comes mandatory with each of the masterpiece releases. So now, taking a look at Lio Convoy himself, very surprisingly, I love this figure. Upon first seeing product shots of it, I wasn't too keen on it as I'm not majorly familiar with the Japanese interpretation of Beast Wars. I do believe this was Beast Wars 2, which was a Japan exclusive series from what I can recall, that is, and Lio Convoy was just their version of Optimus Prime, a completely different take on Optimus Prime, which is super cool. I love it when we get characters that we're used to seeing in a specific silhouette and design get completely revamped into something very different, and here we definitely have that. Optimus Prime is no longer a truck and no longer an ape like he was in the original Beast Wars cartoon series. He's now this awesome looking lion, and I've got to say Takara Tomy for the most part have done a fantastic job. Now there's only so much you can do with an MP figure in actually making the lion or beast mode look as authentic as possible, so of course there are some gaps which can be covered up with various different pieces depending on how you angle everything, but I think that they've done a really nice job. I think that everything is concealed quite nicely. It's really only from the underside that you can definitely see evident robot mode kibble. However, for me, I'm not sure about you, I certainly won't be displaying the figure on his sides, showcasing the underside of the figure. And if we turn our attention to the back, definitely very elegant and smooth panels, and we can see some detailing such as the tail. We do have these red knee pads, which do definitely stand out considering they do contrast with the white and grey motif, but once again I really don't find these much of a drawback whatsoever. And the paintwork on this figure is super cool as well. From what I can gather, most of the white plastic or the white pieces that you do see are completely painted. They do have a finish over the top of them, so although the actual plastic may be a slight like white colour, it is definitely all painted, which is super cool to see. I absolutely love the head sculpt on this figure as well. Really nice details of whiskers and the face and the nose, and this entire main section too I think has been sculpted quite nicely as well, and it is actually articulated at several points, which is cool too. I'll showcase you some of the features of this head as we are now on the topic of it. So the mouth does open ever so slightly. It's mainly just the upper jaw section that opens, and if you do open it too wide it does look rather obscure, but you can see some magnificent details of some teeth and the gums painted in pink and white, which is super cool. I do have some of the Lio beams or the Lio missiles already installed, so if you flip these sections out here, these missiles here are actually a separate piece. I do like to keep them inserted in this as I don't want to loosen up the connection, and it just helps me store some of these additional accessories. So you can see if you flip these sections out, you do have these missile beams, which do in fact have details of what look to be missile launchers. However, these are just fixed into place and are merely sculpted in. In order to access the bigger ones, you're going to want to take this small section here and bring this back, lift this whole piece up, rotate this down, rotate this back as well, and then these pieces here you'll want to flare outwards, hinge these pieces forwards, fold this down, and then close this section up, and repeat the same process here for this side. So just fold this all out, and here we've got some more of those Lio beam missiles that are showcased as a feature on the back of the packaging. These, once again, I'll just showcase these ones. These are removable, although these are actually sculpted in plastic, so I don't really have much of an issue of these perhaps being scratched. But personally for me, I just think they look a lot cooler when inserted into the figure. So that's definitely a super cool feature to see, and was something that we did indeed see within the cartoon. And you can even armour him up furthermore by coming to these undersides and actually bringing out these daggers or these claws that he does have stored away in the front legs. I wouldn't recommend deploying both of them as you'll probably compromise the stability. And even now I've already started to make him ever so slightly looser and a little bit more wobbly, but you can see that these do protrude out and do definitely look like very menacing weapons that Lio Convoy could strike down an opponent with, which is super cool. And they just compress and are transformed back into the arm ever so securely. In terms of articulation, you saw earlier on that the jaw, at least the top half, is articulated. The bottom half is articulated too, however not to a fantastic degree. The head can swivel side to side depending on whether or not you flare these pieces out. So you can get this to rotate left to right, and it can also hinge left to right as well in order to give you almost head articulation, which is super cool. And considering how many pieces there are here, it's definitely great to see Takara implement some form of articulation in the head and that it isn't just a static piece. These front legs here are on ratchet joints due to the transformation of the arms. These pieces here are on swivel joints. You could articulate this on a ratchet joint as well. However, personally for me, I like to just keep it compressed. And then finally with the feet, we do have a swivel joint. However, it is slightly limited due to the way it's sculpted. It does tend to bump into the actual connection piece that it is pegged onto. And then in terms of the back articulation, the legs can ratchet forwards and backwards. And I wouldn't necessarily mess around with the joints here, as these are mainly due for when you extend the legs due to transformation. So overall for articulation, it is actually quite basic, although I do think you are able to pull a decent enough amount of poses off with this figure. The tail is also articulated at the back at 2 points, just for those of you who were wondering. He does come with this blaster, which I presume is mainly for the robot mode, as there isn't really a spot for you to insert it in for the beast mode. This has been detailed quite nicely and has actually been completely painted, which is super cool to see. And he also comes with a missile rack, which you can take some of the other missiles and insert them into, and have this act as if though it's almost a handheld missile launcher or just a missile carrier for the robot mode. Unfortunately, I haven't found a place for any of these accessories to store within the actual beast mode themselves. However, setting them off to the side isn't necessarily too much of a drawback for me. So that just about wraps everything up for Lio Convoy in his beast/lion mode. I won't be showcasing the transformation in this particular review, just as this figure has been out for some time now. However, for those of you who really are keen for me to do the transformation, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below, and perhaps I'll come back with an instructional tutorial video on how to transform this figure from either mode. But without further ado, let's get Lio Convoy from his beast mode into his robot mode. And here we have Lio Convoy fully transformed up into his robot mode. Now you can see here that this is definitely the mode where I think this figure shines the most. This looks almost as if though it is a dead ringer for the on-screen model that we saw within that original Japanese cartoon. at least from the front. As you begin to rotate the figure to certain angles, certain attributes that carry over from the lion mode begin to protrude slightly more than I perhaps would have liked. Particularly these lion legs, I would have much preferred it if they could have found a way to actually compress these within the torso. However, unfortunately, they haven't, and we are left with them literally hanging out on the sides of the arms. However, there is a slight feature that is demonstrated on the packaging that you can actually put these to some good use within this robot mode. However, for me, I just think that they're more of a eyesore than anything. But taking a look at it, you can see that this figure looks absolutely remarkable. Now, the paint deco on this really pops. I'm not sure whether it's the red, blue, and white contrast, but I just think it looks so clean and perfect to the anime model. There is no doubt that the head sculpt is supposed to be the iconic leader Optimus Prime. Obviously, in this incarnation, Lio Convoy, but it looks fantastic with the blue helmet, the yellow, almost orange eyes, and the grey crests for certain parts of the helmet's shape. We've got the mouth guard picked out in a nice grey paint application, as well as a lovely maximal symbol on his chest. Some nice blue detailings here. I love almost this six-pack design that we've got going on here, and the yellow paint details all look super cool. The lion head does transform, and we do expose a faux lion head. I think that the whole transformation to this whole piece here really is genius. It certainly looks awesome. I have opted to take some of the missiles out of this and just showcase you how they look in this almost holster configuration. So you can just see here that the grey and red missiles can store into this, and you could have this act as a weapon. So you could use this to shoot out the missiles, or you can literally just use it as a holder in order to carry some additional ones around, I guess, if he's feeling bored. He also has a super nice feature that if you actually open up this compartment of his chest, it does reveal the matrix of leadership, or as to what the packaging refers to it as, the Energon matrix. You can see that this has been detailed quite nicely. No electronic LED functions, unfortunately, but it's still been detailed super cool, and we've even got a nice detail such as an actual sculpted in maximal symbol on the interior, as well as some nice grey paint applications in there as well. So that's super cool to see as well. Just overall a really nice looking figure. You can see this is his blaster. It pegs into the hand via the same slot and port as per tradition with all of the MP figures, and I think that it works reasonably well and looks super cool. My only downside to this weapon would be that none of the missiles that are actually incorporated with this figure can be inserted into this, which to me seems as if though it was something that they perhaps missed. I just really don't know as to why they couldn't plug the missiles into the gun. It just to me seems really redundant as to why they would even include additional missiles, as they do actually include 2 missiles that you can't have on the figure at one time. So he does include 6, and you can really only use 4 on the figure at one time. So it would have been great if some of these could have actually pegged into the ports of the gun. But nevertheless, super cool looking figure. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so it can look left to right as well as up and down to a reasonable and fair enough degree. This section here is able to hinge out to the sides. It can't really hinge upwards unless you use the transformation joint, but we do get ratcheted joints outwards and ratcheted joints downwards. The arms are just on a swivel forwards and backwards. There is a bicep rotation as well as a ratcheted joint at the elbow, although the ratchets are incredibly stiff. You can see that I'm having to use quite a substantial amount of force to actually get these to work. So definitely these are a lot stiffer than I would have perhaps liked, and to me they do seem as if though they could break, or it could just be made out of incredibly sturdy plastic, but they're definitely a lot stiffer than I would have liked. Full 360 rotation at the wrists, as well as the standard MP articulation for the fingers, so an articulated hinged thumb, an individually articulated index finger, and then the final 3 fingers are grouped together also on a hinge joint. A 360 degree ratcheted waist rotation joint, as well as an ab crunch due to transformation, which too is also ratcheted. Ratcheted legs, which kick out to a fantastic degree, and ratcheted legs back to about that far. If I hinge this out, we also have ratcheted out to the side motion, a full 360 degree rotation at the thigh, however once again incredibly stiff. A double ratcheted joint for the knee section, so you can in fact ratchet this up to a really fantastic degree, and that second joint there is mainly down to the transformation, and the knee pad is on its own individual hinge, so we'll follow the motion of the leg depending on how you pose him. He does in fact have a swivel joint here, so you can rotate this the full 360, hinge these sections forwards and backwards on ratchet joints, mainly due to the beast mode. And then finally he does have a swivel joint at the toes, However, as you saw in beast mode, it is quite restricted due to the way it is designed. So overall for articulation, I think it's great. Very standard of Masterpiece figures and a lot better than some of your mass retail figures, and you are literally able to pull this figure off in any pose you so choose. So you can see that he can in fact hold the blaster, or much like we saw in the beast mode, you can in fact take these here. They are on joints. You can just unpeg these and have these hinge outwards, and you can have him deploying some more of those Lio missiles from his arms, which looks super cool. And of course you could do it on the opposite side. I think that that's quite a cool feature, and it's just a nice addition for displaying, just folding that back up. We can also take these arms here now, and what they showcase you doing is literally rotating this whole assembly around and then folding out the claw, and you could even rotate it, and this is the Lio claw. So you could have him utilising those additional lion parts as a weapon. And I think this looks a lot cooler than just them hanging out on the back. So this is perhaps a display option that I will look into when I do eventually display this figure up upon the shelf. So that's quite a cool feature. And he also has the feature of rotating these pieces outwards so that you have the missiles at the top, much like we saw in beast mode. I won't demonstrate that, as it's exactly the same as what we saw earlier on. You can also flare this out, and this acts as almost a shield. So just showcasing this. This is supposed to rotate, although it doesn't really rotate too freely, and it is of a very stiff joint, but this does rotate forwards and backwards. And they call this here the Lion Typhoon. But personally for me, it's more of a risk of actually breaking anything due to the stiffness of the joint, so I'll probably just leave that standard and won't necessarily mess around with that too much. And then the final thing that they showcase on the box is actually to do with the tail. So they do tell you to extend the tail, and this is supposed to act as the Lio Vute, which I'm not entirely sure as to the origin or the meaning behind that, but I guess you could use this as a weapon, perhaps to pincer some of the Predacons in the eyes, depending on whether or not Lio Convoy is feeling slightly gnarly that day. And then finally, turning to one last feature, we can actually open up both sides and fold out these nozzle sections here, which I presume act as jets. Perhaps he uses these in the show. I'm not too familiar with the show, as stated previously, but that's a really nice added touch, and is something that Takara is renowned for adding these small Easter egg bonuses into their figures. So that's super cool to see. And they can just compress, and you literally would never know that they were even there. So I really do love this figure. I think it looks fantastic, definitely up there with the Masterpiece standard. The transformation on this one, for me, is a little scary. There are certain parts where you do feel as if though perhaps you could break something, although all of the plastic does feel quite sturdy on this one, so I don't worry about it too much. It's mainly just the paint scratching. You can see I've got a small chip there, and when you do transform it, you do see little flakes of red and white, which unfortunately do flare off, which is a shame. I would perhaps prefer it if Takara could use some more robust paint, although I think that it complements the figure really nicely. And at least from the front, this figure looks exactly how he did in that original Beast Wars 2 anime series. So definitely a highly recommended figure by me. Once again, if you are in the market for picking this awesome piece up, then I definitely recommend that you should check out Showzi's store. And for that, there will be links down in the description box below for both the direct link to the Masterpiece Lio Convoy, as well as a direct link to Showzi's store's front main page. I hope you enjoyed my review on the Transformers Masterpiece MP-48 Lio Convoy. And until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.